Well, I just hope he doesn't fall asleep, first of all. But that being said, I think what you'll see is he'll levy a lot of accusations at Republicans. That's what he did last time. He'll talk about all the things he's doing to secure the border. Meanwhile, you just had a 14-year-old girl in Virginia that was sexually assaulted. So, to that girl and her family, Virginia is a border community. And so this idea that the border is secure is nonsense when you look at what's happening across the country, where you have all the fentanyl deaths and you lay that handily at Joe Biden's feet. So what he needs to do is own the fact that his policies are a failure, but he won't do that. I'm not exactly sure how long that duration is going to be, but kudos to our governor for standing up and staying with Texas and our border states for the purpose of securing our border. Look, illegal immigration costs Tennessee almost $1 billion a year. That's B as in Bravo. And so that's money that should be going to our school kids, going to our veterans. And you still have 22 suicides a day with our veterans, but yet we're spending $1 billion on illegal immigration. That's not sustainable. It's not fair to the American citizen. We have laws in this country. It's time to enforce the laws.
Well, I'm very excited about it. And for me, I brought a guest, an OBGYN doctor, who had to leave Tennessee because of the overly restricted banning of abortion and basically criminalizing what she was doing. She's moved to West Palm Beach, where I hope now Florida, we can keep Florida's clinics open. So I'm excited, really. I'm looking forward to the president talking about reproductive freedom and the ways that we are lowering costs for Americans, whether it's putting more resources into housing, getting people in higher, better paying jobs. Those are the kinds of things I've been listening for. Well, the good news is that I expect this week we're going to keep at least half the government working. Democrats have been able to put people over politics. I mean, we're going to be taking care of our veterans, pregnant women and their children who are in need of food, our water infrastructure, training, making sure that the abortion drug stays legal. There's a lot of good things in this funding package that I expect will be signed by Friday.
Well, I want him to brag about some of the accomplishments. We have done so much with infrastructure, renewable energy. Let's talk about some of those things because they definitely impact my district. Las Vegas area was the hardest hit by the pandemic, and now we're the fastest recovering. But people need to hear it in terms of specifics, not broad things like infrastructure. Well, it's not a good way to run government when you just kick the can down the road a week or 2 months or till the next session begins, because you can't do any kind of long-term planning. There's no stability for business, and that's the thing they want the most, predictability. Programs come and go. You put people at risk, law enforcement, are they going to get paid? Fire, are they going to get paid? People going to get their Social Security checks? So that whole concept of pushing it off has become kind of the rule of the day as opposed to the exception. Now, I believe we'll get something done this week, but they need the Democrats to pass it. So we end up passing something just to keep government open, because that's what we do. We work for the people, even though it doesn't have all the provisions in there that we'd like to see. And the Republicans aren't going to vote for it. They just soon shut down government. They don't like government. They don't want services, so that makes them happy.
Sadly, my expectations are relatively low, whether it's high cost of groceries, crises around the world, or the migrant crisis at our border. The president just doesn't seem to want to confront the realities that average American families are facing every day, and instead casting blame when he should be taking greater responsibility. For us, upstate New York, we know the challenges. Rural communities, we're driving further to go to work, so gas prices continue to mount up, electric prices, cost of the grocery store. But also, we know the humanitarian and national security crisis that's been created by this administration's failure to secure the border. They have emboldened They have encouraged and they've incentivized cartels and have surrendered the southern border when what we need now is real security. We need security because upstate communities are being challenged to provide for public safety. Families see the horror and the violence around the country, and the president just doesn't seem to want to embrace the challenge. Well, I leave the sort of the internal punditry to other people, but I will tell you, I mean, I've spent every day of my adult life governing, and as an executive for the last 24 of 30 years, this just isn't the way you develop a budget, and it does demand executive leadership. There's little question the president has to lean in more. We have a small majority of one house and one branch of the federal government. In order to ensure we meet the needs of taxpayers, in order to ensure that we respect taxpayers, we need a bipartisan solution. And so the appropriations bills we're moving forward with today reestablishes a commitment to rein in federal spending within the Fiscal Responsibility Act that we helped craft and ultimately adopt. This is far too late in the process, and rather than arguing about yesterday, I'm hopeful that my colleagues, Republicans and Democrats, understand that we need to do more to rein in federal spending, respect taxpayers, and meet the needs of American families, and for me, the families, small businesses, and farmers across upstate New York.
What do I hope that President Biden touches on in the speech tomorrow? Well, number one, he's going to be way past his bedtime. You know that. And number two, I would love for him to take responsibility for an open border, for inflation, for our enemies around the world feeling emboldened because they don't feel like America is strong. I would love for him to discuss those things and take responsibility for them, and then lay out a plan. So, okay, we haven't done so well, but this is what we can do going better. He said, I've got the experience, I've got the wherewithal. If he had the guts to do that, which I don't think he does, I don't think he has the wherewithal. I'm not even sure he will be their nominee going forward for next term. But I would hope he would talk about it. Instead, what I'm afraid he's going to talk about is he's going to try to blame Republicans for an open border. He's going to try to blame Republicans for inflation. He's going to try to blame Republicans because our enemies around the world don't fear us anymore, because we won't spend the money. We won't just shell out the money. That's what I'm imagining he's probably going to do.
Metric, the United States is less safe, less secure, and less prosperous than it was 3 years ago. So what I would like to hear President Biden say is how he's going to address these things, from economic security for Americans, energy security. Certainly the southern border is going to be a big topic of conversation for Republicans, and how he's going to secure that border. These are really the things that I think the president should be talking about to the American people tomorrow night.
Yeah. Well, certainly President Biden's memory isn't the only thing failing Iowans. It's his policies too. It's a failure at the southern border, a failure on the economy, a failure on the global stage. So all of these things are mounting, and Iowans certainly are aware. It's why President Biden's at a 29% approval rating in the state of Iowa. So I'm hopeful he actually addresses those issues that are facing Iowans every single day. Predominantly the border, right? It's a huge issue in states like mine where the drugs are coming into our communities. My guest for the State of the Union this year is a police chief from Mason City, Iowa, Chief Jeff Brinkley, and I brought him to help tell that story of the impact of open border policies and what they mean to a community like Mason City. Population 27,000, and we're seeing the entire population of the city of Mason City, the same number of people cross the border about 7 times a month right now. That's unsustainable and it's unsafe, and so that's why I decided to invite Chief Brinkley to tell that story to my constituents.